Hello, do you hear me?
I can hear you, Karsten.
All right, thank you. Coming in on the fly here.
No
Greetings,
worries.
everyone.
We're still waiting on a few people, Todd. We're getting close to quorum. Looks like I think we got about two more seats to fill, and then we'll be looking good.
Okay. Oh, did you already take roll?
No, but I'm watching the attendees as
Oh,
they.
okay. Okay. Do you want to, should we start taking roll then?
Yeah, we can go ahead and take roll.
Okay. Thanks, Besson.
All right, Chair Primary Todd Bayreuther.
Here?
Alternate Roger Herringa. I believe he's going to be joining us a little bit later. Architect Primary Joe Mayo. Not seeing in the room today. For the alternate, Che Fortaleza. Also not in the room. Building official primary, Tim Woodard. Not seeing. For the alternate, Steve Belzak. Not online. Fire Services Representative Primary, Lance Dahl. Not seeing them. Cities and Counties Primary, Hoyt Jeter will not be available today. Affordable Housing Representative Primary, Todd Sullivan. Not seeing online. General Contractor or Developer Primary, Bill Mybush. Seeing them online. Manufacturer, Supplier Primary, Brian Horstman.
Present.
Thank you. Structural Engineer Primary, Joshua Mergens.
Present.
Thank you. The alternate, Trent Tenney.
I'm here.
Thank you. Persons with Disability or Accessibility Expert Primary, Michael Shaw.
Present.
Thank you. Building Owner Property Manager Primary, Brett Conway.
Present.
Thank you. General Public Subject Matter Expert Primary, Michael Barth.
I'm here.
Thank you. For the alternate, Leah Summer. Not seeing them in the room. State Enforcement Agency Primary, Paul Clark.
Here.
Thank you. And Fire Protection Engineer Primary, Andy Leonto. Let us know that he'll be able to join at 12:30. So he's not here. And right now we are one seat shy of a quorum. So anybody who's joining late, well, I'll just ask them to try to raise their hand. I know they're not here to hear me ask that. So I'll keep an eye on the attendees list as well.
Okay, thank you, Dustin. Okay, so then we'll skip over, obviously, reviewing and approving agenda or minutes at this time. Let's move into, well, first of all, would anyone else from the public like to be recognized on this call? Go ahead, Patrick.
Yes, this is Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, this is Carson
Elizabeth.
Jonas representing myself.
I'm sorry, I missed that one.
This is Carson Jonas representing myself.
Thank you, Carson. Welcome. Elizabeth, please.
Yeah, this is Elizabeth Torsky with Cascade Natural Gas. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Micah.
Thank you, Todd. Micah Chappelle, Technical Co-Development Manager, Seattle Department of Construction and Inspections, and the WABO Technical Co-Development Committee Chair. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Micah. Ken, please.
Yeah, I won't be as long as Micah. Ken Brulette, Seattle Fire Department.
Thank you, Ken.
Is anybody as long as me, Ken?
I don't
Make
think
that
so.
longer, Micah. Okay. I'm not seeing anyone else. Thank you. I see other proponents on here. So we will follow the schedule in order today and try to move as quickly as we can. Did we gain another PEG member by chance?
Let's see. I'll just run through and try to catch the ones that we got absent. Roger Herringa, still not online. Joe Mayo, not seeing. Not seeing Che Fortaleza. Tim Woodard, not online. Steve Belzak, not online. Lance Dahl, not online. Hoyt won't be joining us. Bill Mybush.
Bill did say he was going to hop on a little bit later.
Okay, a little bit late. And Andy Leonto. So yeah, we're still shy of
Okay.
quorum, you know.
All right, that's okay. Ken, you're first up with 071. Are you comfortable starting without a quorum, knowing that we can't take action? Ken Brulette?
Yeah, hold just a second, Todd. I got another Todd, another call. Let me answer this other
Okay,
Todd. And
no-
I'll get. I
no
would
problem.
prefer a quorum. Yeah.
Okay,
And so for the group, to introduce this one a little bit, this one touches both the IBC and the IFC. And the IFC tag has reviewed this one and recommended the draft that we'll have before us today for adoption at our October 15th meeting. And this one is one slated to go to a correlation group, which if we get quorum and we get through the agenda at other business, I would like to ask for some volunteers for that group. It won't be an official tag or anything, just a group where we've got 5 volunteers from IFC tapped at yesterday or at Tuesday's meeting, and then looking for 5 for this group and 5 more for the IMC, and we'll bring them together for a public meeting, but with no official motions, and we'll come back to the groups and share the knowledge.
okay. Well, so question of the tag. So how would you like to address it? We want to wait a little bit on jumping into the first one, or we could, jump order, Ken, if you're comfortable, or we can just talk about other business for a couple minutes. I don't want to delay too much, but if we want to take care of that now.
Well, I don't mind doing the quick presentation. If you guys can vote on it, maybe somebody will attend by the time I'm done talking.
That's what I'm hoping, Ken. Yeah, I just want to kind of give you the
Okay.
courtesy. If you don't want to start without a quorum, that's fine too. Yeah.
No, that's fine. We'll go ahead
Okay.
and get going whenever.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Let's do that then. This is 071, please.
Okay, give me one moment. I'll pull that right up. There we are. All right, is everybody seeing the screen, or did I not finalize it? No, I didn't.
Not yet.
Here we go. This one's on carbon monoxide, and Ken, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you very much. So on October 15th, I presented this to the fire code tag, which they unanimously approved it with my abstention since I was a proponent. And the reason that we had some further discussions on it is because it was presented prior to the committee action hearings 2 that was held this last week. And we just wanted to make sure that there wasn't any changes to the international proposal, which was F-148-24, which was put together by Jeff Shapiro. It went to the first committee action hearing, had some modifications to it. Those are all in this proposal. There was nothing brought up to the committee action, the second committee action, so there wouldn't be any additional proposed changes to it. But during my research, as late as today, I did notice that we'll have to probably look at the Building Codes Chapter 35 and the Fire Codes Chapter 80 and just the reference standards, making sure that it points to the correct number. So during the presentation, I looked at WAC 5154A for the Fire Code and 5150 of the Building Code. And over time, those two have not been correlated. But in this proposal, I kind of took the effect of correlating the two just to make sure that none of the things that we had at the state level were missed. So the long and short of it is we've the 2024 International Fire Code had a rewrite in this section, and it was discussed at the national level that it just wasn't quite finished. And so Jeff Shapiro was asked to put something together to clean it up. And that's what you see in front of you is the F-148 that was proposed by taking the existing language in the 24, making some modifications to some definitions and adding a couple definitions. And then for our state amendments, I tried to add them in the appropriate locations to make sure we didn't miss anything. And that's pretty much it. It's a long proposal, But I'm hoping people took the time to read the end of it and see what it comes down to, and that it makes sense if you read through it. And I guess my only question was, we had discussed at the tag regarding an exception that was in towards the bottom of the document. I don't know if you can get down there for the e-occupancies.
Is it all the way at the very
yeah,
bottom of the language
yeah,
proposal?
you have it you have it on the left-hand side, the 915.4.2.3. So in our WAC, we have where it says for group, there you go, thanks. For group E occupancies, having a occupant load, the model code says 30 or less. We have 50 or more in here in our state WAC. So I was making an assumption that we increase this number to 50 based on portable issues that we've had throughout the years, and I'm not too sure if that was the correct reasoning or not. And I was hoping to get anybody from the building code tag that could remember when. I couldn't get anybody from the fire code tag that could remember the reasoning for that, because it is a different than the model code language. So that would be my only question to this tag, if anybody had any history of it. And just because of time, if anybody has any questions on the proposal, be more and do my best to try to answer it.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, go ahead, John.
Yeah, sorry, just seeing this for the first time, but looking at that first sentence, for group E occupancies having an occupant load of 50 or more, do you really want to do that there? I think you want 50 or less, because the second sentence is where you're more than 50. So you got two different requirements. Otherwise, you're only triggering both of those sentences when you're more than 50. I think the original one is supposed to be the smaller group, and then the second sentence is supposed to be the larger group. But that's my thought, just from a quick glance at this. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, I'm just trying to track what you're saying here. I'm trying to look at the state exception.
So do you understand my point?
Yeah, so the first sentence, for group occupancies having an occupant load of 50 or more, alarm notification will be provided at an on-site location staffed by school personnel or in accordance with notification requirements. For group E occupants having an occupant load of more than 50, an audible visible alarm should be provided in an on-site staff location.
So what this is saying right now is that if you're less than 50, well, yeah, if you're less than 50, you don't have to do anything. And I think the intent was to get some kind of notification in the on-site location for the smaller occupancies, so less than 50. I mean, again, I'm just guessing this based on structure.
So our exception in 5154A says carbon monoxide alarm signals shall not be required to be automatically transmitted to an on-site location that is staffed by school personnel in group E occupancies with an occupant load of 50 or less.
Okay.
So,
That just seems odd to me, but okay, I'll take your word for it. And again,
that's the issue here, is that language, I believe, is not in 5150, that section.
I'll pull it up for us real quick.
Yeah, if you look at 5154A, you can,
While Dustin's pulling up, Michael, do you have comment on that?
I agree with John. It's 50 or more, and then more than 50. It's, one should be applied to less, one should apply to more if they're different circumstances. Otherwise, they should be together in the same sentence.
At the very least, the trigger should be the same, right? It's one is 50 or more, so you trigger it at 50, and the other one is more than 50, so you trigger at 51. Kind of weird that there's only a 1-person difference between the two, so they really should be aligned.
Yeah, because Ken, the wacky reference, you said 50 or less, right? So that
Yeah,
would
it
be,
says, yeah, E occupancies with an occupant load of 50 or less. So, it'd be 915.2.3, which
Sorry, guys.
yeah, so there you go. That exception that is showing.
You move it around, it messes it all up. Sorry. 915.2.3 to compare to this one.
So the first thing is if I have an E occupancy of 50 or more, then alarm notification shall be provided at an on-site location. And then if I have an E occupancy happening, an occupant load of more than 50, an audible and visible alarm shall be provided in an on-site location staffed by school personnel. Isn't it saying the same thing twice?
No, well, they're slightly different. One is 50 or more, and the other one is more than 50. So one you trigger at 50, the second one you trigger at 51. I mean,
I see what I see what you're saying. So okay.
I mean, you can come if you're going to trigger everything at 50. You can, as Michael pointed out, you just combine the two sentences now.
Yeah, so if it's 50 or less, they're not supposed to do it per state law. So then 51, so it should be occupant load of 51 or more, right?
You can say more than 50 to align it with
Okay.
the second thing.
All right. So yeah, Dustin, if you can make that change. And again, John, do you have the history of why we went below
No, I
the
don't.
national code?
I don't know that history.
Okay.
and then to Michael's point, it shouldn't just be one sentence. Instead of being redundant with the second sentence for group B occupants having an occupant load. Just combine it all with an and.
So we need to combine in there.
I don't know. I think that's what I'm hearing, right, John and Michael? You're saying it should just be an and in there somewhere.
Yeah, somehow to construct it, maybe it becomes two separate bullet points or something. But yeah,
There you go.
don't need the trigger twice.
Does that align with your intent, Ken?
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out where to stick the state amendment with the 50 in the right location, and that looks like that's the right spot.
Yeah, the two sentences seem like somewhat redundant, though.
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to clean up here, Carson.
Yeah.
So that where your cursor is now, Dustin, right? I know you're doing this on the fly and you're doing great, but you'll axe out everything up to past 50 there. That's a bullet point.
And then do we want to combine this with the sentence above?
John was recommending a bullet point. I think that makes a lot of sense. So then and you have to break up the first sentence too, then into a bullet, so 2 bullet points.
Okay.
I mean, I guess since you don't have a quorum anyway to vote on this, maybe we can work on wordsmithing this offline.
That's fine.
We're
I
also
think we do
here.
now. Joe's here.
Yes, sorry, just forgot this one started at noon. I'm here.
Oh, it looks like maybe you do have a quorum because I see Tim's got his hand up.
I think so,
I
yeah.
did the same thing as Joe, so glad to be here now, guys.
Yep,
Yeah.
happy Halloween.
Me, yeah, it's I'm here as well. So
Okay,
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
We,
So
we
we do
definitely
have-
have a quorum now.
okay, so what do you what does everyone think here? Should we wordsmith more and try to take action? Ken, what would you like here?
Well, I'm just
think-
looking at the model code change proposal for that, and
Yeah, for any
Um,
wordsmithing, this really needs to be put into one sentence.
Okay,
in the
If
model
it's,
code
if
language.
it's all gonna apply more than 50.
Yeah, in the model code proposed language has it in 2 separate sentences. So I was just reproducing what got approved at the national level.
I don't have a lot of experience in this area, but in the building code, why does it have then also the requirement that there's a monitor or something, right? How is that enforceable? And then should that requirement be in here also? Ken, you're referencing a state law. Are you talking about there's an RCW that this was?
No, I'm referencing the WAC that the 5150 and the 5154, which have not been correlated. But the stuff in green is the language that comes from our state amendments. Everything else in black is the model code language that is being proposed for the 27 code. And all I was trying to do is trying to fit in that exception that was in our state language someplace in here. And you guys are helping trying to craft it for the 50.
Got
So I would prefer not to mess anymore with the national language with regards to trying to make this one sentence and just keep the proposed 2 sentences and just put in our 50 where necessary. To simplify it.
So you would like to see it still look like this, but have the 50s located appropriately?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And I'll just remind everybody, this one is slated to go before a correlation group as part of their agenda item to talk about with folks from Fire Tag and IBC Tag.
Meaning they could edit and bring it together.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that seems reasonable if everyone else. Go ahead, Michael.
I'm curious what's driving all this at the state level, because it seems like it is totally modifying, the requirements of where what seemed to be a lot more simple kind of, where all dwellings. And this seems to be breaking it to where all the specificity is providing areas that you don't need that protection. And, which, maybe I'm wrong because I haven't spent a whole lot of time here and I apologize for not studying this prior to the meeting, but I have concerns, or I'm curious as to, what's driving all of this for a change in the state code here.
What's driving is that when the 2024 building code and fire code were published, people noticed that there were some issues with the rewrite of 915. So for the 2027 edition, a proposal was put together, which was requested, and Jeff Shapiro put it together to try to make this section more readable and usable. And that's what he has done, and that's what's being presented. So it's just to bring the 2027 proposed language into the 24 language. So without, somebody would really have to take the time to go through the entire 24 to look at the changes and then see where the issues were from the previous code editions. But the only thing that I was trying to do is just correlate our existing WAC requirements for this subject matter into this proposal. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's the reason it's being brought forward. Was just they saw that the 24 edition was going to be hard for people to use. So I didn't want us to go through several years of working with a code that was going to be difficult.
Okay, thank you.
So at this stage, are we looking for a motion to move this to that correlation meeting, or go ahead and move it to the full council?
Well, I guess if this group is happy with what's on screen, we could move it to the council. But if we're looking to move it to the correlation group, I was hoping we would have a motion to table this at this group until the correlation group can meet and propose a finalized revision that we take back to both the IFC and this group.
I'd be happy to make that motion, but I'll wait until the comments are done. It looks like John had something else.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Oh, sorry, I saw Michael had his hand up. Dustin, I just sent you a wordsmith version that might work. So I don't know. Again, Ken doesn't want to wordsmith any further, but I do think the two sentences can be confusing. So I've sent you a proposed, I just emailed it to you.
All right, I just heard the ding on that one. So if we move this to the correlation group, we can bring that wordsmith version as well there. I can bring it up on screen if we want it as well, if the group wants.
With that said, this is Tim, and I'd make a motion to table this and bring it to the correlation group with some proposed word languages, and us all to agree on it then.
Well, Dustin, the correlation group doesn't come back to the building and the fire take separately, does it? Or does it?
That's kind of the plan. So as far as the correlation group goes, where instead of bringing all three full tags together and trying to orchestrate that, I'm looking to get volunteers so that we can have a representative of each group, or a representative group of each group there at the correlation meeting. It's not going to be an official tag meeting. They'll discuss wordsmithing and getting these proposals so we can take back the same thing to both groups. So for this one, for instance, with this one's been approved by the fire tag, but it also has the correlation group slated for it. So if we made this change here today, like we show on screen, I would like to take it back to the fire tag for reapproval. So if we work on the language at the correlation group, we should come back with identical proposals, and if any changes are made at that point, I would like to get buy-off on both tags before we move forward on a proposal on one code and not the other.
Okay, so in that sense, Tim, you've put on that we table it, but move it forward. Is there an alternative where we do make a recommendation moving forward within knowledge that it's moving forward? And then finally, want to make sure we've addressed the rest of the proposal. It's a long proposal. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, my intention was to kind of meet the idea around having this a secondary group get together and wordsmith these. But for everything else, I am comfortable moving that it be moved on to the whole board or the whole State Building Code Council for approval. I didn't quite know how to articulate all that. So if
I
that's
see. So
something,
you're just worried. So the correlation's just on this one section. So let them do their work and then review the whole thing at once.
that's what I was hearing from
Okay.
Dustin was the kind of what he was hoping to have happen.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's your motion then, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
This is Brian Horseman. I second that.
Okay, well, thank you, Brian. We'll give it to you. Okay, any other discussion on tabling this? Okay, the motion is to table 071 to bring this section in front of us to the correlation committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I
Any opposed? Okay, 071 is tabled with this section moving forward to the correlation committee. Thank you, Ken. Okay, next.
This next one is
Yeah, go ahead.
121 from Karsten Jonas on
I
brake lights
withdrew this
covered.
one at the IFC meeting.
Yes, I was getting to that point. So we discussed it at the IFC tag meeting on October 15th. After discussion, this proponent withdrew this petition, and so we don't need to just to deliberate moving this one forward at this time here. So
Agenda item 6, which is petition 121,
is no longer on the table for discussion. It was withdrawn by the proponent on 10/15.
Withdrawn. Okay. Okay, thank you. Then we'll go to 7, the Wabo petition 062, please.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Gilliland. I work for the city of Seattle, but today I am here on behalf of WABO. This proposal has to do with the measurement of illumination levels on stairs. Part of the reason I proposed it is it's something that's going through the 2027 I-code process. And one of the things that has occurred is they had the ICC hearings last week, and they heard this item for the second time. And we had proposed a modification that's not captured in what you see before you. And so I was wondering, Dustin, I sent you this really last minute, but I sent a kind of a revised proposal, and I was wondering if it was possible to replace this one with the revised proposal, or maybe to delay this until next week. I don't know if you've got it
the
or not.
revised proposal.
Fantastic. Okay.
And so since everybody hasn't had a chance to digest this one, we can still make motion on it. The plan is to bring all this back for one final look so that any modifications that happen, we can have public input on those if we make modifications at a meeting. So I think we can take action on this one with the knowledge that we'll be taking one final action after this meeting.
Okay. So should I just go ahead and proceed and explain what we're trying to do here?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. Well, this, as I said, this is something that came up. A lot of folks that I guess are accessibility advocates were suggesting that they've been doing kind of a lot of work on the A117 standard. And one of the things they've been looking at a lot has been illumination levels on stairways. And so anyways, we thought that was not a bad idea to really make it clear where to measure illumination levels on stairways. This is just illumination under normal power. You'll see in the kind of the next to the last line of the first paragraph, it talks about where you measure to, and it says at a horizontal distance 12 inches to 14 inches from the stair side of each handrail. And the point of that change is to just let people know that you're measuring the light at the walk line, which is obviously where you need the light if you're illuminating a set of stairs. And so the thing that has changed since, I guess this went to the first go around to when we modified it this last week at the national level, is that one of the things that, you know, they were talking about, there seemed to be a lot of concern about inspection of these kinds of items. I don't think this would necessarily be on an inspection punch list, but I guess if there were questions about whether minimum levels were met, then I see this coming into play. And obviously the designers would use this, but looking at this, you know, when you start talking about measuring from specific points on the stairway, it, you know, it originally had said measuring from, you know, the nosing of each of the landings and the lowest nosing in each flight, and at least one nosing in the middle of each flight. And we felt like that was too much specificity in terms of where to do the inspection, because frankly, the entire stairway needs to meet the requirements of, you know, at the 12 inches and 14 inches of showing the 10-foot candles at the walking surface. We thought it was kind of unnecessary detail that didn't need to be into the code, and could result in, you know, it's one thing if it's just on a few stairs, but, you know, in Seattle, we have 30-story buildings, and, you know, that's a lot of measurements when, you know, when really what you're kind of looking for are the outliers where it looks like something might be too dark, and then you know, with the light meter, you'd take that measurement. So our modification to the original ICC proposal was voted on by the committee, and it's the second time the committee has met, but they approved kind of what you see in front of you now. And we'd like to recommend it for approval by the state of Washington. I mean, it is it is the safety item for it. You know, doesn't matter whether it you know, since somebody who really needs accessibility provisions, but kind of applies to all of us going down a set of stairs. And we thought it was really good the adding the where to measure it actually on the step. You know, and doing that from the side of each handrail. So that's all I've got. If you've got questions, I'll try hard to answer them. And this section, of course, is found in the building code and the fire code. So we've gone ahead and just shown where that would be in both codes.
Okay, go ahead, Tim.
So my question was just going to be at the national level, which I was there, but not for the egress portion or the IBC portion. Did the committee approve this, and kind of did they have any concerns?
No, the committee approved it. There were some folks, some of the advocates really wanted specificity about, you know, how many treads and how many stairs, you know, where it would be measured to. But ultimately, yes, it was passed by the committee, and so it'll be going to the public comment hearing in 2026.
All right. The only other thing that's coming into my mind is traditionally how you've met these is kind of down lighting, right? You would install next to the stairway. I'm wondering if now that we've broadened it and it's for the whole stairway and it lacks that specificity, if anybody's looked into kind of like those products that we've traditionally used to see from one of their locations, how many stairs does it actually illuminate? Obviously, with having like a maximum 12-foot rise, the middle one kind of seems appealing because you could put one near the bottom where the landing was, near the top, and then one in the middle. And now that it kind of has to be illuminated the same level all the way down, I'm just kind of curious if that is met or not met, and then
Well,
what that means.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I go back to, you know, the whole set of stairs has to meet. I mean, you're talking about where you're measuring to, but you know, if the lighting at the middle tread meets, but the one right underneath it doesn't meet, then you know, it kind of defeats the purpose, I think, of the requirement.
Okay. So why was the previous proposal to have that only meet in the middle?
Well, actually, that was, they started out with making you measure it on every tread.
Hmm.
And then the comment that was heard at the committee action hearing number 2 is where they backed it off because some folks said, you know, trying to measure that at every tread is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And so I guess basically what the difference between what what was proposed and then what we modified is that, you know, that you would have to measure it at all the, you know, at these 3 different points versus what kind of we leave it more wide open, and, you know, that kind of allows somebody to just spot check if something looks like it's not correct.
Okay.
That, at least that was my idea behind it.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Tim, kind of half answering your question. The reason statement for the original proposal said that this could be viewed as a reduction in lighting to what's currently required. So they said that there is no plausible scenario which this would increase the cost. So to my mind, that means they're implying they're not going to be adding fixtures because of this. And again, you know, what Jennifer said was the problem was that the proposed language, you know, top and middle of each flight restricts you to those points. So you could have dark spots in between, which didn't make a lot of sense either. And this is just about measuring it, not about, you know, where the fixtures are placed.
Sure. Okay. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, well, with that then, is there, under Dustin's suggestion, is there action that we want to take as a tag today? Do we hear a motion? Or maybe to, you know, Jennifer, what would your recommendation be today?
Well, I want you to approve it.
Okay, just want to be clear.
This is Mike Barth. I could make a motion to approve it as modified in the as shown on the screen.
Okay. And just to restate that, maybe it's a motion to recommend approval by the council as modified on the screen. Okay, thank you, Michael. Is there a second?
This is Tim. I would second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, the motion is to recommend approval by the council as modified. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, and it's recommended for approval. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank
for walking
you.
us through that.
Appreciate it.
Okay, with that, then we're on to agenda item 8, petition 119. Karsten, are you up?
Alrighty, so this was discussed and approved at the IFC tag, and so yeah, this is just bringing it to the IBC tag because it also covers that.
And for everybody here, there were several revisions of this one, and just because I'm a little bit behind on this one, I posted our original petition on the website for this meeting. So it looked like this in the beginning, and the approved revision is here. So this is the fourth version of this proposal that came through. So there's a lot of discussion at the fire tag on this one. And I apologize for not getting this document before you to digest.
Yeah, as you can tell, like one of the big changes was like actually listing reference standards correctly. So, and also just making the wording cleaner.
And this one, as drafted here on screen, was recommended for adoption by the fire code tag. This one will also go to the correlation group.
Okay. Any discussion or other input from TAG or the public?
Could you scroll down just a little bit, Dustin, so we could read kind of like the intent?
I'm sorry, go ahead, John. I didn't see your hand.
Never mind, I just saw the answer. Thank you.
I just saw the answer I was looking for too. This is Tim, and it does appear like this is just adding an option, and as long as these references are correct, which it sounds like those were vetted and amended to be correct if need be, I would make a motion to move this on to the full council.
Okay, thank you, Tim. For a second.
This is Brian Horseman, I second.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, the motion is to recommend approval to the full council. Any other discussion? Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
I do have a question because what I downloaded is different than what you're showing on the screen. What was originally sent out to us pretty much put that in lieu of, the exit signs may include the pictogram. What you have on the screen is clearly an either or, so it could eliminate the wording of exit. But
Yes,
in an either or, is that the intent?
Yes, what you see, well, yes, my original intent was that it was an option, but I recognize that my original wording may not have been clear. So what you see on the screen is the newest revision, which is meant to be much more clear.
Okay, so it does allow for the elimination of the word exit.
Yes, the
replaced
original
by
one
the
also allowed that
pictogram
as a choice.
instead.
Is there any other discussion on that? So just to be clear, so the motion then should be to recommend approval of what's shown on the screen, right?
Yeah, I have it drafted as recommend revision 3 for adoption by the council.
Is that
Now,
understood?
that was
Go
my
ahead.
intent. I was just going to say that was my intent with the motion is what we were reviewing, and I would just add that the pictorial thing, it seems to be commonplace in other countries and stuff now. It seems that that's the way it might be going possibly, but I think we're kind of a little late to the game in allowing it. But I live up near Canada, so I go up there all the time and see it often.
You basically read my mind on some of that. That's basically the reason. That's basically why I brought this, because a lot of other places have done it already. So that's basically why I brought this proposal. Great minds think alike.
Has the ICC committee accepted this?
I believe the ICC has been considering some to do a similar thing. I think they like approved it at the second committee action hearing, but that's obviously not the last step in their adoption process. So.
Are there questions about the language at the ICC level versus the language we see in front of us?
I was not the proponent of at the ICC, but it used slightly different wording, but the intent and outcome was the same.
Yeah. Okay. Is everyone comfortable? We have a motion on the table. Is everyone comfortable going forward? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Or abstentions? Okay. Thank you for that. So the, sorry, this is 191, right? 119
Yes.
has been recommended for approval by the full council. Thank you, Karsten. Okay, sorry, I'm a little choppy there. Let's move forward to agenda item 9. And this is petition 037.
Correct.
Do we have a representative from WABO to present this?
Let's see, this one I'm showing as we got Richard Williams, but Micah, your name's on this one. Angela Hopton, John Sue are also all on the call here today.
Okay, Micah has his hand up, so we'll give it to him. Thank you.
If Rich is on, he can roll with it, but I'm not sure I see Rich on today, so I can roll with it. I think we can all roll with this one. You know, at ICC, there's sometimes we want to say we stand on our reason statement. So if you read the reason statement, this is pretty straightforward. Technically, there's two parts to this section. One of them talks about accessible vehicles, and the other one talks about electric vehicle charging stations. And so 1107.2.1.2 and 0.2 don't really match up with what they're trying to do here. So this cleans it up. This sends the EV infrastructure for accessible vehicle spaces back to 429.4 where it's appropriate. And then it keeps the other electric vehicle charging stations information in 1107.2. So it really is just a cleanup of what we have in the state code, because we do have our modifications in 429 for EV and accessible EV spaces. So just some cleanup here. Hopefully you all support it. And if you need more information, let us know. I shouldn't say hopefully. I'm anticipating you all support this.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. I was just, going to add on to what Micah said, because I am in support of this. But it does appear like, kind of some of the rewording caused us to have to, stipulate that we have to comply with what the state RCW is, which we've meticulously gone over to make sure is all in section 429. And I don't want to do that again to also put it in chapter 11. So that makes a lot of sense to me that we just reference it. And then there's at least an pointer in chapter 11 if somebody went there first. But at the same time, we don't have to regurgitate everything we have there.
So in short, does this really clean up then the discussion we had a month or two ago when we were in circles on going back and forth between 11 and 4? But that's the intent here, right? The way I read it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Does everyone understand this then? And are you ready to entertain a motion, or would there like more discussion on this?
I suppose I can go ahead and make a motion that we move this forward to the full council for approval.
Okay.
And we can still have discussion if somebody does want a second.
Thank you, Tim.
This Mike, I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there more discussion on this? Anyone have any questions? Make sure everyone understands what this is addressing. Okay. If not, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? Okay. And this is 037 has been recommended for approval by the full council. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 10 is another WABO petitions 061. Do we have a volunteer?
Jennifer still on?
Sorry, who, Dustin?
Jennifer Gilliland? Or did I bring up the wrong one? No, we have her as the designated contact.
Yeah, 11:06, this is correct.
So this one also has Micah and Angela and John's names on it.
Go ahead, Micah.
Thanks. I think Jennifer may have dropped off for another meeting or lunch or something. We're pretty stacked today. So,
Would you prefer to wait or?
nah, we can handle this one. Again, I think this one's gonna kind of be another, hey, it's a clarification and simplification of what's going on. And if you do read again, I'll try to rest on the reason statement. It clarifies the number of required accessible parking spaces for residents and how those are to be calculated. So hopefully it's pretty straightforward. I know that Jennifer and Rich put this together, and for folks that aren't aware, Jennifer and Rich Williams are both on the A117. Jennifer's the primary. Jennifer's the primary, Rich is the alternate as representatives on the A117 committee. So they are capturing things like this that deal with accessibility and all those fun things and parking and clarification. So I trust their judgment on this and the reason statement, and that's why I have my name on it as well for TCD chair. And on the reason statement, I urge your support. Thanks.
Thank you, Micah. Any questions or discussion before a motion? Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I just want to confirm that this isn't increasing standards, it's just clarifying what the standards are already.
Go ahead, Micah.
I don't see it as increasing the standards. This is just a clarity on where that parking is required. One of the things you'll notice here is that is intending or clarifying things like parking spots needed for non-residents. And it talks about taking out certain things like leasing offices and employee parking are not intended to be included in that calculation for the accessible parking for residents. So I think it's just clarity, Patrick, and not adding any additional requirements. It's just making a, hey, how do we accurately apply this? And let's put code language together that does that.
Thank you, Micah. Tim?
Yeah, I don't know if it needs more clarification, but I always refer to like Fair Housing Act when I deal with a lot of any accessibility things with Chapter 11, and we don't enforce the Fair Housing Act. However, that is what the basis of this code language is kind of put together on. And they have a really nice diagram that basically kind of shows this in reality that I like to hand out to a lot of people so that they can kind of comprehend what it means when it says separate facilities. So this just makes it clear that it's for when you provide parking for other than residents. So I don't see this as an extension at all.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, with that, are we ready for a motion?
This is Tim. I'll make a motion that we move this forward to the full council.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
It's Mike, I'll second.
Okay, Mike. Any other discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that 061 be recommended for approval by the full council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. The recommendation is move forward. Thank you.
I'm sorry, folks, if this matters. I was trying to say aye, but having technical issues on the computer.
Appreciate that, Josh. Thanks. Okay. How we doing here? 1 o'clock. We're only an hour into it. Okay, we're doing well. Let's keep going. Agenda item 11. Petition 124, please.
Todd, while that's coming up, can I just let you all know I'm here now?
Yep, welcome. Thank you, Roger.
All right, this one was drafted by Joe Mayo on behalf of the IBC tag, and Joe is with us, and so I will turn it over to Joe.
Let me see. I think this, apologies, this one fell off my radar. I think it was just moving it into conformance with the Washington State Code. So it's like taking out International Conservation Code and replacing it with Washington State Energy Code, just for clarity.
Yeah, it does seem pretty straightforward. Is that, do others remember this conversation? And
I
that
do
this would
remember
be,
talking about this at our existing amendments report, or the significant changes, and so we came up and this is just to clarify which energy code people should be looking at in this section.
did we ever determine how many times this occurs in the code?
I don't think we necessarily did a full accounting on that, no.
And go ahead, John.
Sorry, I think you're raising the question I kind of have is, are we going to do this throughout the whole code? I mean, I think you can handle this much more simply with this, with something somewhere in chapter 1 or something like that, that says wherever you're talking about the IECC, you mean the Washington State Energy Code, because otherwise you're gonna have to go through all the codes and find out every place this happens and make that change. And it's a maintenance issue later too, so.
Is it, yeah, my question, John, kind of technical side is it, if there's a determination by the council that they wanted to do this, there's the benefit to doing this, is it just a blanket and then it becomes an editorial change across the entire code? Or I guess there is the fundamental discussion that you just raised there. Should we do that? Is it bad code writing to change it? I think it was the intention was obviously to simplify, make sure there's no confusion. But if not, go ahead, John. Yeah.
Yeah, if I may throw in, I guess I would question, is there confusion? I think most people who use this code or, in this state understand we're under the Washington State Energy Code. So I'm not sure this is necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this at an earlier meeting, but I don't have any notes on it, so I'm not sure how I remember these points came up. And I could definitely go either way on this. So if it makes more sense to drop it or revise it and add, change this code proposal to something in chapter 1, certainly do that.
I mean, I'll give my opinion. I'm not opposed to it. I think it does make a distinction then between the fact that we do have our own code, and it's not the model code that's now a standard, if I understand that correctly. So I don't mind making the distinction, but go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, my preference would be to lean towards putting something in chapter 1 saying that the Washington State Energy Code comes from an RCW, and I was seeing if I could pull that up right away, and I don't have it at the tip of my tongue, but we've been directed to create the Washington State Energy Code by the legislature. So I think that clarification, but I'm also agree with John. The only thing you could do is probably do a search for conservation maybe and see how many places, but then are we having to do a separate, change proposal for each one? And I just think adding something in chapter 1 might be the easiest and judicious way to do it.
Go ahead, Micah. Thank you, Roger.
Thanks. As many of you are aware, as I mentioned, Seattle, we put our own code together based on the ICC files. This is an exhaustive list. We do this work in-house, but we don't do the strike through and change it to Washington or Seattle codes, excuse me, whether that's building, residential, energy, any of those. We do have a note, however, similar to what John recommended, that says anywhere it says international code or international other whatever code, that it means Washington State Code respectively through all those. And I'm talking it's a extraordinary number where this occurs throughout the codes. So I don't think that's something we want to put on SBCC staff, especially if we're moving towards having them create Washington custom codes. And this would be a massive series of changes that I don't think needs to have staff time spent on them. A note would be great, help to develop that. I would help to develop that if you need it. But that's what I look for or support as well. Thanks.
A note or definition, is that what you mean?
But I would say probably a note or something in chapter 1 that says where this occurs. I mean, you could put in the definition, but again, you'd have to maintain that, like John mentioned. If the definitions change or relocate, but if you just put it in a chapter 1 item or even a publishing item in the table of contents or introductions of our code books, then that would work as well. Thanks.
Okay. Dustin, you have your hand up. Michael, sorry to jump over you, but
No,
Well, I'm just gonna, on this term right here, just in the building code, it looks like it's referenced 16 times across the code. But like Micah says, there's other references like this that we might want to go back and change. It's a big lift here for to rename all the codes across all the codes. And the other thing I would point out is that this so far isn't happening in the fire code or the mechanical code. If I don't think there's a proposal or anything like that to rename the Washington State codes across all the code text. So I think maybe what I would like, if we were going to do it to make it clear, the mention in chapter 1, I think is the good place to put it. And maybe we could refer this back out for some work, and maybe we can make it across the code, a note that we reference all the Washington codes in the administrative section and say, hey, if this term is used, we mean this. And
okay.
maybe
Thank you, Dustin.
as part of correlation.
Okay, thank you. Michael, sorry.
Yeah, and no, thank you. Yeah, that was going to be my suggestion. Section 101.4 is the referenced codes. And to that point, there's subsections. 101.4.6 is energy. It would be, if we're going to put in an amendment to point people to there, it seems like that would be the place, is to amend the 101.4.6 for energy. And then at that point, 101.4.3 could get uniform plumbing as well. And just, it would combine it all into that first section of the IBC and eliminate that question for plumbing and energy throughout all of the codes.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Tim.
I'm just going to throw out a different option. And I'm totally comfortable with chapter 1, and I think that's a good solution as well. But we also have the reference standards within the code. So anywhere where it references International Energy Conservation Code, we could go through the different codes that we've renamed to the Washington codes and just put in parentheses next to it as modified and referred to as Washington State Energy Code in the reference standards. And then, I feel like that would capture that as well. I don't know which one's easier.
Good discussion. I'm not sure, Tim. Thank you, John. John?
Yeah, just here. So alternate suggestion, rather than making a formal change to a sections or section or sections in the code, put it in a user note at the beginning of the chapter 1. That we did a lot of that, Todd, as you know, with the tsunami chapter, a lot of user notes in there. I think that would be a much easier way to handle it.
Yeah, thank you. Roger?
I am going to suggest that we run this up the flagpole, because if the IBC tag decides we should do this one way and the IFC tag, the question comes up and they decide that we should do it a different way, it sounds like it is something that's above and beyond just the IBC. So I think sending it to either the standing committees or directly all the way up to the SBCC to say, what do we want to do about it over all of our codes? And then it's putting a group together to try to figure out the easiest way to do it with all of our codes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure. I mean, I can make a motion, but I'm actually not sure what motion that would be.
Well, say to do it, go ahead, Tim. I'll ask my question after.
I was gonna say what the motion could be is that we recommend to council to add something to the user notes that explains any reference to the model codes, means a reference to the Washington state codes, and then we just send that up to council that our recommendation is to add that to the user notes, and then they can decide if that's where they want it added or not. But if it doesn't leave the tag at all, then theoretically nothing will happen as far as that goes. So.
Okay, Michael.
I'd also add that in WAC 5150-007 exceptions, the last paragraph of that is codes referenced which are not adopted through RCW 1927.031 or RCW 1927A shall not apply unless specifically adopted by the authority having jurisdiction. That line is kind of what has set all of us, that's why there isn't confusion, in my opinion, in the application of all of these. And so to John's point, if we wanted to do anything really simple, it would be maybe just to add some clarifying language to that section to further specifically reference the Washington State Energy Code, and in that case, even the Uniform Plumbing Code as well. But because that is where the current legal authority is for not having it corrected throughout the body of the code.
Okay. Okay, this was helpful discussion. So it sounds like if there was a desire to put a note that we still would need to take action here, right? And the note would require that something moves forward, right?
Could this one go out to that correlation group for discussion of the codes that are actively being looked at right now and come back with maybe a suggestion that could be placed in the preface sections or chapter 1 of all the codes, and we could maybe recommend this, make a modification to this proposal as part of that work, and bring it back to move forward to the committees and then to the council, and maybe flag this one for some extra attention by the committees and council here in the upcoming meeting, so that we can decide if there's a momentum carried across to the group 2 codes as well.
But the note would still be in IBC chapter 1, right?
Yes, I mean, I think that there's been several ideas kind of floated where we put the note in chapter 1, put it in the reference standards, put it in a user note in the preface. So I think, while the user note in the preface doesn't necessarily modify any WACs or specific code language, that might be a better place to put a note like this, but I'm not sure what the most appropriate location would be.
Yeah, well, I think it's open to anyone to make a motion to propose it. Go ahead, Roger.
Well, I would do it, but I'm actually not sure as the alternate chair if I can even make motions. So I think it needs to come from somebody else. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I can. I'd have to check my Robert's rules, but I agree with Tim. I think that this tag should approve it with comments, I guess, and send it up the flagpole for coordination. Again, I keep, 5150 is the IBC, but are there other codes that need to be correlated as well? So I think Dustin's idea of approving it, saying this needs to happen, but correlated amongst all of the codes and run it up the flagpole.
Well, I don't think the discussion has been to approve the current petition though, right? Rather modify it.
Yeah, I think that with the discussion and the movement we're making, that it would be most appropriate to modify this one to try to select a place to put something like this that could potentially be used to cover all the codes and and mark it for the correlation group and bring it back for a final motion.
So is the suggestion that we table this, but then who's actually going to do the work to bring this back to us with
This
modified language?
correlation group, I'm trying to put that together to meet
Okay.
here in the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Does that seem reasonable to everyone? Okay. I guess we should hear a motion at the table and bring it to the correlation group committee.
Did you want the modification proposed to, Dustin?
I mean, if we have a good modification to write in here, I would be happy to get it drafted so we can take that. Or we could just kind of come with what we have here with the intent to modify and wordsmith it at a correlation meeting.
Go ahead, Michael.
If we're going to do that, I would suggest that we modify it to be an amendment to section 101.4.6. And then use the base language in 101.4.6 and cross out International Energy Conservation Code and replace it with Washington State Energy Code. I think that's the simplest place, and at least then it becomes a placeholder to run this up the flagpole to be correlated with all of the codes.
So I am looking at the custom codes right now, and it does appear like we print the WAC at the beginning of all the codes. And that section that you mentioned before, which, and I'm talking to Michael, that kind of starts that conversation about if, unless specifically adopted, then it's referring to the RCW 1927-031 or 1927A RCW. So basically the portion you had highlighted on the screen before.
Yeah, and that was
that-
WAC 5150-007.
Yeah.
And that does show up in the kind of the preface to everything.
Yeah, as the scope and administration of this code. So it's kind of like the user notes to what John was referencing. And it's not the
Yeah.
user notes because they got those separate, but it would be at the very preface of the entire code book. I'm not 100% sure that's the best spot, but that's the spot I was thinking of. Is it'd be a one size fits all that we can reference all of the model codes and what we refer to them as, throughout the building code. So not just the energy code, but also the Washington State Fire Code and the Washington Uniform Plumbing Code, all of the reference codes.
And I agree. I think the WAC 5150-007 is the best place for it. And then of course correlation, each WAC would have to, have that same the same thing. So that's why I just suggested as a placeholder we could use the 101.4.6, but with the goal of correlation essentially being to adjust the WAC 5150-007 and its counterparts.
Sorry, Mike, I didn't see your hand.
You're okay. I guess I'm going to throw this out there as a more broad discussion, and I know that WABO, we have discussed this before. Is there an appetite that we need to bring up at the SBCC to modify RCW 1927-031 to make an exhaustive list of what the state adopts? Because I think this section in the WAC that was brought up by Michael is almost in conflict with other sections of the RCW where it states jurisdiction shall enforce what the state adopts. So anything you adopt is in play based on that requirement. And so this one says that other sections or other codes, when you look at that WAC number, are not in play unless the jurisdiction adopts them. Now, if there's jurisdictions that don't adopt the code or do any adoption ordinance whatsoever, they're still required to enforce what the SBCC adopts. So which is it? Is it the RCW, the only codes that are listed in RCW 1927-031, or is it everything else in inclusion that they're required to enforce? But again, they're just not coordinated, but that may be the question the SBCC needs to ask. Do we need to have an exhaustive list? When we talk about that, one of the major ones that's not listed in 031 is the existing building code. So even though it's included in WAC language, technically, unless it's part of your adopting ordinance, you don't have to enforce it based on the WAC rule, even though the RCW said. Anyway, you can see where I'm going with that. Very confusing and not real clear. And that is something we have brought up before. Thanks.
Thank you, Micah. Okay, are we anywhere closer?
I don't know. I think what Micah brings up definitely muddies the water for me. If we're gonna look at 031, that's a whole different process than what we're working with right now. So if that's something we wanted to do, we should maybe bring it up at a legislative committee meeting. But then this wouldn't be anything we could do prior to 2024 codes going live, as well as far as changing the RCW. We've talked about some agency proposed legislation, and the advice I'm getting is we need to have like a 2-year outlook on that type of process, so that we can be well prepared to bring that to the legislators, I should say.
Okay, so I guess the question then in front of the tag is there any action today that we want to take on this to inform a WAC or the IBC, or do we want to simply deny this and then move this discussion somewhere else?
With everything floating around, I don't think I feel comfortable with any motion, really. I don't even know if it's worth talking about in the correlation meeting. Seems like it is a conversation that needs to be had at the broader SBCC if they want to kind of make that clear on what codes we specifically have to adopt. Or not adopt, but enforce. Sorry.
Okay. Go ahead, Roger.
I guess I would take the other tact in that theoretically nothing can be considered by the State Building Code Council unless it comes through a tag. So I would almost ask for the tag to approve this modification with, hey, yes, we know we need to correlate it. And if that correlation becomes I agree, it should become a broader conversation at the full SBCC level, but given our current that we need to have it come through a tag, I would almost request the building code tag to approve a change that needs to be correlated and let the full council correlate it.
Okay, all right. Brett?
Just a quick comment, and sorry to go backwards on this one, but is it totally infeasible just to do a find and replace throughout the IBC to correct all of these? And just correct it in place throughout and not have pointers to other areas for tables that tell us what the right code is to use?
I would say not infeasible, but it's a big lift. If like for this one phrase right here, I think we're talking about a bigger issue when we're talking about other referenced codes across the building code. Yes, we could do find and replace strategies there, but not 100% sure if that's the appropriate tack to take on that, to just blanket replace the phrasing.
Okay.
And I was gonna actually also, since I'm still got my hand up, I was gonna mention maybe we approve some options for the committees and council to consider. If we want to make a change to WAC 007 put something in chapter 1, put something in reference standards. Maybe we could come with some options for the groups to consider at the higher level, and then we recommended options, but not necessarily a specific one.
Thank you, Dustin. Micah?
I'll throw it out there as I highly do not recommend the search and replace. If we go down this for one code, it would be beneficial for all. Just for awareness, I did a search for the International Fire Code in the IBC, the International Building Code. It occurs 213 times. So if we're now going to point to the Washington Fire Code, that's 213 replacements for one code. Again, slippery slope. I don't encourage this. A note in the chapter 1 or somewhere else that mentions this or talks about it is a much better path. Thanks.
Okay, go ahead, Tim.
Just hearing what Dustin said, I was going to basically just regurgitate what Micah just said, but I am comfortable moving forward just maybe 3 options, the 3 that I've heard, and I'd make a motion to change WAC 5150.007, section 10, what was that, Michael? 101.4.6.
Yep.
Or the reference standards within the International Building Code to correlate any reference to the model code is superseded by the Washington State codes of that, I guess, division. And then the motion would be to move that on to the correlation committee. And then we can talk about it and then move something to council.
Okay. So Tim has a motion. Do we have enough forming in front of us for a second in discussion?
I'll second that. This is Paul.
Okay. Thank you, Paul, for the second. So yeah, we'll also keep discussion while we make sure we have enough up here before we vote. It is interesting. I understand Micah and Tim, your point there. I also don't think Brett is necessarily wrong. I've always thought it's interesting because the energy code is the one where we, technically don't adopt the model code, right? We just basically started over. So that's I think that the intent to clean that up is there, but also understand how it's confusing or it'd be hard. I mean, go ahead, Micah. My point is, it's just not technically wrong to do that. Just hard. So we don't do it.
Yeah, you're correct. It kind of starts with the Washington Energy Code. However, I think the technical RCW starts with the 2006 International Energy Code and builds a Washington code from that. So I agree with you for the most part, but if we're going to be 100%.
Oh, I know. I appreciate that because I always was curious, and that I didn't remember that part. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a fun part of the RCW. Again, I think we could do this somehow. I don't know if this is the best path because it's not real clear. Hopefully we can find some clear guidance, but I appreciate y'all moving something forward for further discussion. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, Tim and everyone, do we have enough in front of us then to? Yeah, it's option 2 and well understood enough that we're allowed. We let the staff fill that in.
Well, it's my understanding the motion is to take what we have here, and I can try to expand a little bit on this, what we have here, but to take this to a correlation committee or group and bring it back with some better input, maybe more discussion on the wordsmithing within here, and then hopefully have just 3 options we come back with, and then we can move it on up after we get a nice wordsmith version back from correlation.
Okay. Can we then just briefly restate the motion then with what we're looking at?
So this is
Um,
Tim again, and I'd make the motion that we move options 1, 2, and 3 further to the correlation committee to determine the best place to insert a standard that allows us to continue to not change all the wording within the code, but instead find a generic place to reference the Washington State custom codes.
Okay, perfect, Tim. And Paul, that's consistent, your second?
That, yes,
Okay,
I'll second that, same motion.
okay. Okay, thank you. On that motion, then, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. That was 124. No, I'm sorry, that was
you're right.
124. Okay. Okay. We're halfway. Do we want a break?
Yes, please.
Okay. 5 minutes enough, or you want 10?
No, no one else will say it. Sure, works for me.
Sure, what?
This is Scott Douglas. I have agenda item 14, and I
Yeah.
also have about 500 pages of ASCE wind committee ballots due at midnight. So would I be able to, I think mine will go quicker than the last ballot, last proposal. Could I talk for 5 minutes real quick and then get back to my ASCE ballots?
I'll leave it up to Tay. Is anyone opposed to that? Do you want to take a 5-minute break first, though? Is that okay? Ken or petition 125, are you opposed to that? Going out order?
I really wanted to get, I thought mine was up next. I'd really like to get through my very short one first.
Okay, okay,
Oh, okay. Guys, do what you want, and I'll come back.
okay.
You know,
Thank you, Scott. Yeah.
yeah, I'll
So want to be fair to everyone, but I
tough day.
appreciate the request. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Scott. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break though. So 1:38. That sound good?
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Senator Todd, can you hear me?
Hey, thanks everyone. That was fast, but
I was really excited. Todd, can you hear me?
Yep.
This is Bill Maybush. I joined around 1:15.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's quickly just go around and make sure we reestablish where you have quorum here.
Okay. Todd Bayreuther,
Here.
Roger Haringa,
Here.
gotcha. Joe Mayo, Tim Woodard,
Here.
Steve Belzak, Chad Fortaleza,
Preston.
yeah. Lance Dahl, White Jeter won't be with us. Todd Sullivan, Bill Mybush,
Present.
thank you. Brian Horseman, Joshua Mergens,
Present.
Trent Tenney, Michael Shaw,
Here.
Brett Conway,
Here.
Michael Barth,
Here.
Leah Summer, Paul Clark,
Here.
Andy Leanto,
Present.
and let me go back to Brian Horseman. I see he's online still, but he may not be back here, but we let's see here, should have a quorum with that. Yeah, we have a quorum right now.
Okay. Okay, thank you. We have about an hour and 20 minutes left. We'll do our best to try to get through these. We're on agenda item 12, which is petition 117 with Ken Burlett, please.
So Dustin, could you scroll down to page 32? And that will be the only thing that we're trying to correlate into the building code.
Okay. For some reason, my annotate button's covering my page numbers here.
So you're on page 5 now. There you go. So there's 24. It's just
Ready.
above, it's just above the section 5.
Okay, gotcha. So just this section right here. Boom.
That's it. If you just, so what this is, the correlation that's required for the building code tag is the 907.2.23 is adding in a thermal imaging detection system in this proposal, which is just another technology to detect fire. And also the reference 1207.5.4 is just being updated to 1207.6. So it's just a correlating between the 907.2.23 that's in the fire code. And this is what's going to be reproduced into the building code, that 907.2.23. All the other things in this code change proposal does not reprint in the building code. So this is the only section. So sorry, it was a 35-page document. Might have been able to be handled by correlation, but we just wanted to be safe and just show it.
Yeah, appreciate that. Okay, thank you. Any questions for the proponent? Okay. If none, is there a motion for this petition?
And if you could, Todd, if you don't mind, just be really specific on the motion, says that it's only to this 907.2.23, because I don't think it's fair for the tag to approve all of the fire code tag stuff that was in
Sure.
this document.
Okay, thank you for that, Ken. So maybe I can state it then. So I think what I'm hearing is there a motion to recommend for approval section 907.2.23 as shown?
This is Tim, and I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you.
I second that.
Okay, Andy, thank you for the second. Okay, if everyone understands it, is there any further discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to recommend approval by the full council for just section 907.2.2.23. Sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay.
I
And
told
petition 117 is recommended.
I
Thank
told you
you.
to be quick. The quickest
Yeah.
35-page proposal ever. All right, thanks everybody.
Yeah, right. I think right. We did something.
Thank you, Ken.
All the preparation, Ken. Thank you. Okay, with that, then agenda item 13, which is petition 125.
One's also by Joe Mayo. For wind
Okay.
protection.
I mean, I guess just based on my own experience and working in Western Washington, at least, I was surprised to find this addition. And I did not, submit a proposal to strike it out. There was more for discussion, but that not have a cavity space for exterior wall cladding made of lap siding, hardboard, engineered wood, or fiber cement seemed in rainier climates surprising to find. I know it drives down cost, so I guess that was likely the reason. So I think there's let me give me 1 second here. There's a number of different comments in here. I don't know if that I didn't, no change was proposed there, so I don't know. But there are a couple additions. We scroll down. I think this was bringing the 2024 model IBC and our Washington State code changes in alignment. the underneath my editorial comment, the next comment is this is new language in the 2024 code. And it sort of was, let me see, it's duplicated in, it was in item 2.4 below in the Washington State Code, but it seemed like just following the model code made sense, and striking it from 2.4, moving it up to the section in the model code. And then there was one other small addition in the Washington State Code, my comment 3, had the word all inserted in front of tested. So I think in the end, just no substantive changes, more just editorial changes here.
Go ahead, Roger.
So Joe, this is basically just taking, this is one of those that we identified and just correlating the changes, what is in the current WAC with the 2024 IBC language, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. And we could probably strike my comment 1 from this proposal, since that was meant to be a discussion earlier on in our earlier meetings.
Did we resolve that question?
Not sure.
I guess to your point, you're not proposing to strike it in this, we, the tag, right? We're not proposing to strike it here, but it was more of just a curiosity why we adopted this. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a curiosity, since it makes your building enclosure potentially worse performing and more at risk to moisture mitigation into the exterior wall, since it's still required to have a weather barrier, but weather barriers typically, especially on a wood building, are vapor permeable. So if there's water just standing there for long periods of time, it's going to get into the exterior wall assembly. So anyways, just stuff for if anyone else is passionate about it, maybe we would seek to change this. But I also don't know the origins of this, and there's probably a good reason to get this inserted into the code. So
Thanks, Joe. Roger.
Joe, again, can I ask, I guess, that first section where you raised the question, does that mean that the model code language does not have that sentence and airspace cavity is not required, correct?
that's my that's how I remember it.
And I can actually look, but the only I would just want to make sure that is the Washington State Code less restrictive than the ICC by doing this?
Yeah, it would be.
Okay.
Okay, so we're addressing the first one. Are we addressing the first highlighted section here right now?
Yeah.
So I
Okay, go
guess
ahead,
we're
Tim.
hearing if there's an appetite to remove it. My mind
so.
is, my mind goes to, something to the effect of, if approved in the manufacturer's installation instructions, just so that we get that back in, because that's kind of the conversation I have with people is I need to see the manufacturer's installation instructions and show how they allow this to be installed. And then, if the manufacturer allows it that way, it's kind of like, it's a tested, listed product at that point, especially when you're talking about, say, hardy lap siding or something to that effect. And if they do allow it without the cavity behind, then I wouldn't want to be additionally restrictive than what the manufacturer allows.
That makes sense.
So my question is, why is that not in the exception bullet or the numbered list there. And then Tim, are you making the point that it'd be an exception if there was manufacturing installation instructions that demonstrate to the official why this is acceptable?
Well, first off, I think the exceptions are to, not requiring weather protection, in accordance with 1402.2. So I think every product that's in certain areas needs to have weather protection. And then there's this list of exceptions like concrete walls and other provisions that are met. So at that point, you don't have to do the additional weather protection. My point was more to the fact that Washington State Code already has this modification that, hey, for lap siding and cladding, we don't need to worry about the airspace. But I wouldn't want Washington State Code to override what the manufacturer's installation instructions were. And, I would want that to be the governing factor for the installation.
I think that'd be a smart addition.
And then hopefully we keep everybody happy too by not taking out that exception that maybe people have relied on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we cover ourselves to say, the manufacturer's instructions are really what need to govern if that airspace is required or not required.
Agreed.
So Tim, you're just saying adding at the end of the sentence as what's the language?
If permitted by manufacturer's installation instructions.
Okay. And then I would support that too. I was cautious about going less than the ICC, but if the state has done it in the past and without having to go back and look at all of the discussions that happened when that change originally went in, I think that does cover us.
John?
Real quick, it said if the standard code language would be where. And then, I mean, this has probably been in there forever because of bevel siding, right? You don't need an airspace behind bevel siding, so that's why it's there.
You know why the model code hasn't dealt with this? Anyone?
I would say that anybody could accept the installation instructions and basically, this would be, say that you had a case where it was not manufactured, right? So somebody made cedar siding, something to that effect, and it was lap siding. Then this would govern. But then if it's a manufactured product that has a listing and has been tested for water intrusion different ways, then I would hope by adding this, it just kind of says that is what's going to govern in that scenario.
Okay, Michael?
I'd just reiterate John's point that typically it would say where permitted instead of if permitted.
Okay. Okay, we good on that one? How about the next section that's highlighted? This is-
They're highlighted because of the comments on there. Anyway.
Sorry, say it again, Dustin?
I was gonna say the stuff that you see that's like gray highlight is identifying where the comment applies over this.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
But it's part of the proposal, right? That it's underlined. The question is about redundancy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Roger.
My understanding from Joe is that the other ones are just you're moving part of 2.4 up to the main part of 2, and you're adding the word all, and that just takes what we had before and puts it into this code. So I don't see why there would be a question or concern about those changes.
Okay. Go ahead, Michael.
My understanding too is that Joe has noted that these are all in the 24. So all these are adding is language that's in 24 but not in 21. I assume Joe can correct us if that's in error. But
Yeah, it is in 24, and yeah, it was comment 2 there just moves that section from where it was in the current Washington State Code, and then the Washington State Code in 2.1 just adds the word all, so just keeping that consistent with the Washington State Code. But then in the section right above that, just keeping it identical to the model code. Seemed like it made sense. Sorry if I'm not explaining that well. I hope it's clear.
Okay. Okay, now remind me, do we need to make a motion, right?
Yes.
Okay, so can we entertain a motion to recommend adoption by the full council as amended?
This is Tim. I'll make a motion to. I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Wait a second.
it's Mike. I can second that.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We recommend to the full council for adoption as amended on the screen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that's 125 is recommended for approval. Now 14, agenda item 14 is petition 004. And that was Scott, right? Welcome, Scott.
Okay, thank you. Is that going to be up on the screen in a second?
I'm bringing it
Okay.
right here.
Okay, let's go to, first of all, I'm chair of the Structural Engineers Association of Washington Wind Engineering Committee, and we commissioned a study for the special wind regions in Washington State by a firm called CPP Wind Engineering. And they've already done a study which is presently in the ASCE 722 and IBC 2024 for Northern Colorado and Kern County. So anyway, if you can just scroll down about 6 or 8 to the bottom of the page that you're on. Right. Okay, great. Oh, okay. Anyway, for IBC 1609.3, the second from the last paragraph, it used to states now that the basic wind speed for special wind regions indicated near mountainous terrain, gorges, etc., shall be in accordance with local jurisdiction requirements, and gives some guidance in ASC 7, Chapter 26, to determine those requirements. And so what the Wind Engineering Committee is proposing is changing that language, striking out the local jurisdiction, determining the special wind speeds, and referring to the study. So in Washington State, it'll be shown as determined in the figure on the next page and also the table. So let's go to the next page. Okay, can you get the whole page in the screen? Nope, that's the third page. Go back to the second page.
Okay.
With the map. If you can get, okay, that's good enough. Good. Well, was good. Oh, that's good right there. Sure, because I can talk both pages. Anyway, so this page on the left is on our, the study was approved by our Washington SAW State Board, and it's now a white paper, which is on our website. And the special wind regions up on the north by the Strait of Juan de Fuca, they used to extend all the way to the edge of Jefferson County and Port Townsend. And with the wind study, they've been reduced to basically 15 miles off the coast, Pacific coast, and a little bit farther inland in Clallam County. And then the Columbia River, there were 3 counties that were eliminated as being needing to be a special wind region. And the wind speeds in the counties used to, for risk category 2, vary from 150 at Nia Bay down to 130. And if you can see on the right for risk category 2, the wind speeds under the study are now 120. So in general, they're less. And also, the counties never established wind speeds for risk category 3 and 4 structures. And now we have them at 130 and 140 miles per hour. So if somebody was designing a fire station or hospital or other risk category 4 structure, they'd have specific guidance rather than no guidance at all. So I should add that we partnered with Oregon to do the study along the Columbia River because the special wind regions on both of our states. In Oregon did their own study for the Pacific coast and their special wind region in Klamath Falls and at Bend. And it's already approved and part of the Oregon Structural Specialty Code. And also this is going to be balloted or submitted for ballot. I'm on the ASC 728 Wind Committee, and we're going to submit a ballot this next month, and this will be voted on, these boundaries and these wind speeds in the special wind regions. So I think I pretty well summarized it unless there's any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Yeah, we'll take some questions here. We have Josh first.
Yeah, let me add one thing. The reason we're approaching the state is to incorporate in 728. 728 is probably not going to be approved till, I don't know, 2030. So getting these accurate values and boundaries in the state building code will really accommodate the profession. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Hey, Josh.
Yeah, so a couple of comments and then a question for you, sir. But in general, I've reviewed this and I'm totally on board. I'll say as a structural engineer in the Western Washington region for the last 13 years, this has always been a nebulous area of confusion with differing opinions everywhere and a lot of inconsistency. I'm really happy that we have some good quality study to do this. My only question, and I think the answer is mostly just going to be a more specific study than was done by ASCE, but the new ASCE hazard tools do specify where wind regions are based on latitude and longitude, and it looks like they extend a little ways further, as you had mentioned. But I just want to make sure I'm understanding right that this was a more targeted study than what the broader ASC study that it sounds like was conducted by the same firm. And that's why we're seeing these reductions in these special wind regions, which seems to make sense to me based on experience, but I was just wondering if you could speak to that a little.
Okay, well, the wind speeds in, I think 716 and 722 were part of a big national study, and I think CPP and a lot of people were involved in that. Now, this is just for special wind region, the study. And CPP did the study for the special wind region in Northern Colorado, and Kern County, California, for the special wind region, and that was it. And they have some KMZ files and space maps that they get and they incorporate in the hazard tool, and it's beyond my expertise on how they exactly do this. And I don't think at least I'm not, and I don't know if anybody on the committee is at the level to do, incorporate this on the hazard tool. And so this is just a paper map, you know,
Sure.
like the old, you know, a decade ago. And eventually it'll be on the hazard map in ASC 728. But it's quite a process. And we've the wind committees of Oregon and California, we sort of are guests in each other's committees, so it's sort of a joint effort. And we found errors in the special wind regions in northern Colorado. So it's quite a involved process for the hazard map.
Sure.
But I think, yeah, go ahead.
Just to make sure I understand, so I wasn't so much asking about incorporation into the maps. I think that'll be great when we get there. I was more curious of, we're seeing a significant reduction, but it sounds like what you're saying is, well, this was a more targeted study specifically to special wind regions that the broader national study wouldn't have been as granular on. Is that a fair assessment? I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but is that
broader?
Well,
it really doesn't relate to
the ASCE defines special wind regions for the Washington State area right now, and it's larger than what these are. So I guess I just want to understand why this study is differing from theirs, but I would presume it's from a zoomed out view doing a very broad study to a zoomed in view on a smaller region, but maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Okay, I can't remember the first ANSI standard before the ASC 7 standard was 58.1 or something. Anyways, about 2-3 decades ago. Yeah. Pardon?
I said that's been carried over time. Is that?
Yeah. And what happened is the first ASCE wind committee consisted of maybe a dozen people. And one was a meteorologist named Hugh Church out of New Mexico. And basically, it's a little bit of a joke, but there's a little bit of truth to it. He basically took a Sharpie, they had a study and they had some ideas of, what wind speeds were where in the East and Florida and whatnot. But they weren't too sure about the Columbia River because there were some channeling effects in the Pacific coast. So they took a Sharpie and created the special wind regions. And that's how scientific it was. There was no data. It was not based upon any data whatsoever. And it's carried year by year by year to ASCE 722. And so us in California, particularly the Santa Ana winds in the LA area, the millions of people there are millions of houses, and they're scatters all over the place with the HJs deciding what the wind speeds are. And they're going to be part of 728 too. So we needed the wind committee, SEAs felt they needed a studying with the computers, the modeling and everything. It's much more sophisticated, believe it or not, than a Sharpie in the middle of the night over a glass of whiskey. And so that study, they could have been greater. In fact, in California, there's a special wind region that was created from this study. So just based upon more accurate data. And it could be higher, it could be lower, depending upon where you are. Ours is lower every place except for what's the real small county at 3? Wahkiakum County, which only has 5,000 people. They had a wind speed of 85 miles per hour. And I think that was based upon a 2001 IBC allowable stress wind speed.
That makes perfect sense. Well, thank you, sir, for explaining that. I was operating under the assumption that ASCE had been updating the special wind regions along with velocities. Sounds like that's not the case. Appreciate the history on that. And before I hop off, I'll just say this makes great sense to me. I'm in huge support. I think this will make a lot of benefit for our industry just to have these things clear. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. John.
Yeah, just to throw in there a couple things. Little more history. Yeah, if you look at the maps over time in especially the IBC and in ASCE 7, the special wind regions kind of varied depending on how close you zoomed in. And so there was a lot of problems with the accuracy of those. So this is really good. I have a question for Scott, and I know I'll apologize for not raising this earlier because I did work with Scott a little bit on this, on the language and things. I'm looking at those lines running east-west at Clallam and Wahkiakum counties, and wondering if it's understood that those are following the county lines, or if we need to define that a little more closely. We've got the north-south boundaries kind of, sorry, the eastern boundary kind of defined, but we didn't define those two lines in there. And like I say, I'll apologize for not looking at that sooner, but I just saw that now. I don't know if other people would understand that it just follow the county line.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know the wind maps before used to follow state lines for some reason. I wonder if it was just assumed this people knew that was a state line or not. Myself, I would look, oh, that's fine, the county line, but I could label it if the committee thought that was appropriate.
Yeah, I'll ask I'll leave it up to the tag to decide if they want that clarification. I'm just pointing it out. So.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tim?
So no questions about the technical merits or anything else here. I was just looking at why we struck the word design out of 1609.3 in the title. Was there intention behind that? Because I think it was renamed Basic Design Wind Speed a lot of cycles ago. It's, as far as I know, maintained that name through all the different codes.
That was a request by Don Scott. He used to be the chair of the ASC 728 Wind Engineering Committee. I think in ASC 728, the word design is stricken and not used.
Yeah, they just go into basic wind speed.
I think I'll double check. Yeah, I would give you 10 to 1 odds that that's the definition in ASC 722 and 28. So just replicating that. Somehow the word design got in there and should not have been.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Patrick.
Yes, thank you. This is Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington. No issues with the technical merits of it or anything. I just want to point out that under the law, proposals, the form needs to be complete in order to be valid and adopted by the council. And it just looks like 5 isn't quite filled out correctly. I'm not sure what entered there is supposed to mean. And I think it's clear that there's merits for this proposal and the proponent has provided great explanation. So I think if you just submitted a revision that just provided a little bit of information there with what's been talked about today would make that complete. Thank
I
you.
didn't even notice that. Let me see. Briefly explain your proposed amendment, including the purpose, benefits, and problems addressed. Gee, I don't know how that happened. Okay. So what do I need to do? This is my first proposal to put in the right verbiage that I thought I sent.
So, if you wanted to just provide some verbiage for that, so we can insert it in there. If you wanted to provide a whole new document here, either way works. If we're just trying to expand upon that reason statement there, I don't see any reason why we couldn't move this forward with the notion that what was discussed here will kind of be included in that reason statement for inclusion to the council.
And then we just catch it while we're doing final approval of the tag. Okay. Thank you, though, Patrick. Roger?
Yes, I've got a few things. First, I wanted to commend Scott. He was the very first person that reached out to me about when we can start submitting proposals for change. So it's been a long time that he's been working on getting this through. I fully support the proposal. I do think adding a note C to just say that the horizontal east-west lines are along match the county lines. If we're going to do it, let's just make sure it's as clear as possible. And then the other one that I guess, and this is maybe for Dustin, but there's a word that's escaping me. How big is the file? How much detail if we're adding a map, what is the file? Is it just an image, and how detailed, again, how many pixels are in that image and that kind of thing that we need? So just kind of an administrative, how are we going to implement, put a map into?
I think for rough drafting, what I have here on this proposal, it will work. but I'll need to reach out to ICC. I thought I saw Brian, am I on here? He's on our call today. He's the new representative with ICC. Brian, would you have any input on what kind of file type we would need to do to include this in our publishing?
I don't know, but I can follow up with you afterwards.
Okay, awesome. I'll plan on shooting out an email and just to memorialize it and see what we need for file types.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Roger. John?
Okay, sorry, just looked up for Tim's benefit, the defined term in the IBC is basic wind speed, so not design. So that's a defined term. As far as the figure goes, I don't think we need to worry about mapping and you know, it's the issue is just gonna, because we describe it verbally, right, in items 1, 2, and 3 there. So we know where the things are. I don't think you need to have a map that people can blow up and look at. You know, it'd be, you know, just like the seismic maps, they have the contours there, but you know, in the West Coast, none of those are really usable, right? You gotta go to the tool. Same thing here. You know, we've got it defined. I would suspect that something very similar to this figure should be adequate enough. Again, because we've described it verbally. So that's my opinion. It's just a figure, it's not a map.
Good job. Josh?
Well, a lot of what I was going to say was already covered, but I'll just echo some others. First, I definitely agree with adding a note C about moving these boundaries along the county lines just for clarity. I want to say thank you to Patrick. I had written down that I wanted to bring up the briefly explaining proposal, but I mistakenly wrote it down on the next one. So thank you so much for catching that. And then last but not least, John already beat me to it, but yes, the defined term is basic wind speed, not basic design wind speed. So I'll go ahead and stop here, but thanks everyone for getting all these items first for me.
Okay, thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, I was just gonna add a note for Dustin. You might want to also check with the Washington State Register, because the code proposal changes get posted in the Register and then in the WAC, and I don't know how the image file types work with that. So you might just check with them to make sure that it's all gonna work out okay, what they need. Thank you.
I think that's an excellent catch there, Patrick. So thank you.
I was going to say, first of all, thank you, Scott. I learned a lot today, and I appreciate that there's sophistication to the modeling, yet we can still communicate in a very simple way on the map, a paper map, as you called it. So with this figure, my question is as a hazard figure map, is it appropriate to do by reference and park it somewhere like we do with the other tsunami and other maps in DNR with wildfire? Or is that going too far?
I should
John?
really.
Yeah. Go ahead, Scott. Yeah.
Well, if you think that's more appropriate, sure, but you know, but yet this more or less follows. I think the tsunami maps and the wildfire maps are not part of Chapter 16.
In Washington State, the tsunami is part of 16.
Tsunami is, yeah, but they're separate maps in a separate section.
Yeah. John, you helped craft all those. Maybe you can shut me down if that's.
I have an opinion on this.
Yeah. Well, mine was an opinion too, so yeah.
My opinion would be that you don't need that level of detail. You know, the tsunami maps have to be very detailed, and so you do have to point to somewhere else where people can zoom in and get those, you know, those inundation areas. And so I could see those being separate. This one is so simple. I don't think you need to do that to park it somewhere else, but the way around it, and kind of maybe to address Patrick's point, would be to describe the area in words using kind of these notes here that are on the figure now, in a section in the section where we're saying, you know, here's the special wind region for Washington, and but leave the figure as kind of a just, you know, as a helpful something to use, but you could describe it in words, almost using what's there.
Okay, because I guess if there was a little more definition, where is Pacific Coastline Design? Like who owns where that line exists? Eastward implies straight east from that line, so little translation of that line east. I know it's getting very specific, but how is that addressed?
For note 2,
Roger, go
you're
ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
yeah, for note 2, you're asking about.
Yeah, I was just being, if someone were to challenge, who defines the Pacific coastline? Like, maybe that's well known, maybe not,
Yeah, it's a good question, but I'll be honest, there's not a hell of a lot out there, so I don't know if it really matters by
Understood.
a few
I
hundred
think-
yards or not. But maybe if this was in an urban area, but and that's what we got from the study, and I'd have to go. Boy, I think we'd be going around and around to define the coastline.
Yeah,
I would
don't think
just
there's a
ask,
definition.
my comment was similar, and I think just if we're gonna expand those notes, make it a little bit more clear that the north-south lines are defined by Clallam County, a north-south line, or like one group of north-south lines. Clallam County at minus 124 degrees, 15 miles eastward, parallel eastward from Pacific coastline. And if you can find a reference that says the Pacific coastline is X,
Okay.
and then add an east-west line, and underneath it say east-west lines between Clallam and Jefferson, and between Pacific and Wahkiakum are the county lines. And then getting back to, I know I brought up the issue of the file that needs to be, but I think that where it goes, Todd, is the language is actually the official descriptor. The map is just kind of to help people understand the language.
Yeah, I agree. Just trying to take it to a Bic pen rather than a Sharpie. So thank you, John.
Sorry. So if you need to define the coastline, I would suggest then we should probably use the same coastline that DNR used for the tsunami maps. And I can't remember what they used. It was mean high or high water or something like that. I know Seattle had to do that for a few things. So should probably figure out what they use for their baseline for the inundation maps and use the same one.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of what I was thinking too, John.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Josh?
So John, your suggestion is probably better. I like the idea of a defined line, but I was going to say for some of this, I feel like when we're debating over these relatively small changes, it could be reasonably handled by building official interpretations. If somebody was really challenging this, you're 6 feet on the other side of a presumed line, they're probably going to assume that the wind doesn't suddenly drop many miles per hour. But I wanted to ask the folks involved on the planning review side of the table if they feel like, no, that's just a whole other huge headache, or if that's something that can be easily handled with those processes. It seems like a great application of those provisions to me.
Coming from the other side of the table, I would just say that I wouldn't have much heartburn, and I would usually require the design engineer to specify how far away it is from the coastline so that he could tell me if it met that. If he used the 1 in 100-year low water mark, I may start questioning why he chose that. But I don't see it as being an issue for plan review at all.
Thank you.
Makes sense. Go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to throw my 2 cents in here that I like it just the way it is. I like the simplicity of it. I like even the county lines don't really need to be defined because it's, number 1 and 3 say it's Clallam County, Wahkiakum County. It's the simplicity of exactly as it is here seems to be the best, in my opinion, for general enforcement and application. And yeah, if people are going to argue 15 miles from a high tide or low tide, then then we've gotten too far into the weeds on that project anyway. So I just, my opinion is I like it like it is. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Obviously we need the reason statement, but as for the figure and the language, I think it's good.
Okay, good comments.
I agree with
Okay.
you, Michael, about the county lines, by the way. That makes good sense now that you phrased it in that way.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, anything else? I think we still need the motion, right?
I guess, are we making a motion that this gets amended with that description and we approve at a later date? Or are we trying to propose a motion where we're pushing it forward to be edited on the back end? I'm not super familiar with process in this way. Or yeah, I guess I would be willing to make a motion that we get it edited and approved next time, but if there's other opportunities to do that, this is my first round of process and I don't want to make a motion that makes things complicated.
Go ahead, Roger. I need to be reminded what editing we're doing.
Well, while I appreciate verbally making sure that this the reason statement is in there, Scott orally in a public meeting that is recorded gave a pretty good reasoning for why the change is required. I agree as far as dotting I's and crossing T's, we should insert it in there, but in my opinion, the reasoning statement has been given to us verbally. So I would love, again, I don't know how many proposals we have left to get through in the next 3 or 4 meetings. I think everybody's on board with this. I would propose we go ahead and send it through. Again, I'm not clear if I can make the motion or not, being an alternate, so I'll leave that up to somebody else, but.
Yeah, Roger, if we're just talking about section 5 there, I thought we were going to check it on the final passing by the tag. So go ahead, Tim, though.
I was just going to add on to the revisions that need to happen probably prior to the final approval by the tag. But it also says that there's a price economic impact, but then no economic impact statement. In my opinion, and you could expand on this if you needed to, but I don't believe there is an economic impact. Matter of fact, it sounds like it would decrease the cost of construction in 90% of the existing special wind region. It would only increase it for a very small percentage. So therefore, it would be an overall decrease in cost of construction. So I think adding that in and not marking it yes is also something to change there. But I'd be comfortable maybe making that motion to move it forward with those changes getting made, and then we'll review it again prior to sending it on to the full council.
Okay, so that's the motion. Patrick, you want to sneak in a comment here before we hear a second?
Yeah, just on the economic part, I actually think that this is filled out correctly, and I appreciate how the proponent did it. This is how I would prefer to see other proposals do it, when there's a very small or negligible impact, that they do check it yes, and then just identify that it's negligible and it's hard to quantify. I think that makes it very clear as to what it's doing.
Okay, good comment, Patrick. Thank you. Okay, so Tim has put a motion down to recommend for approval by the full council, and then with the caveat that we're going to check the proposal form for completeness before final passage.
This is Josh.
Okay. Thank you, Josh. Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Okay, with that, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. 004
I have
has
a
been.
quick question just for my notes
Yep.
here. The revisions we're expecting in the proposal form, that's all well and good. Are we expecting revisions to the note C or to the notes in the graphic here at all, or are we okay with the graphic as depicted? Because I got some notes here that I was going to send out some messages to Scott and look for an expansion on number 5 and than to modify the county horizontal lines, but it sounds like we maybe got away from that. I just want to clarify for what I'm going to send Scott, what I'm looking for.
I didn't include any of those changes in the motion, so.
Okay, then I will not ask Scott to give me an amended graphic. We'll go with the graphic as is.
I think after discussion that it makes sense to. I think it was worthwhile discussion, but I've as somebody who was saying let's change the map, I have come full circle through discussion.
Okay.
Okay. Good discussion. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, I understand. I'll get something from you, Dustin, on exactly item 5, the reason statement, and probably the map's okay as is. And if not, you'll let me know, right?
Yeah, I'll reach out to you here today after the meeting, and you'll get an email specifying exactly what we're looking for.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, we have 30 minutes left. Let's keep moving. Agenda item 15 is petition 043.
There's another engineering one. Let me get it popped open. So, from the Structural Engineers Association of Washington on the Earthquake Engineering Committee. And we have Scott Newman as the designated contact. Are you online, Scott? I'm not seeing him online. And I don't think that we have any other folks. We have Julius with his hand up.
Yeah, hi.
Okay, go ahead,
Good
Julius.
afternoon. I corresponded with Scott Newman on this proposal. I'm Julius Carrion, structural engineer with City of Bellevue. And I also chair the structural subcommittee, WABO TCD. So this proposal that Scott wrote is to undo the existing state amendment for the multi-response period section of Chapter 16, because when we adopt the 2024 IBC, which reference ASCE 722, that whole section of multi-point period spectra is already included in ASCE 722. So the existing state amendment is not needed anymore. So that's basically what this proposal is.
Yeah. Thank you, Julius. I remember this also. Josh, go ahead.
Oh, I had raised my hand before Julius had come on speaking when
Okay.
no one here, but I was gonna say I reviewed the proposal and it's simple cleanup. There was something brought forward from the ASCE 22, and now when we adopt ASCE 22, we don't need that brought forward. And it's a super straightforward, makes perfect sense proposal.
So this was brought to us as an outside petition, but remind me, did we technically already address this with when we were going through the?
I don't believe we did. I think it was overlooked because it's a change in the ASCE, not a change in the IBC.
Right, but when we brought the 24 model code in, didn't we? I mean, same effect, so we can just simply move this forward. But I thought we addressed that this would then have to be removed out of the section to align with the 2024 code. Same intent.
Yeah, identical language. What this was is it was an amendment to bring forward something that was in the ASCE 22 that wasn't going to be adopted. They wanted to give the option early. Now that ASCE 22 is going to be adopted, my understanding and from what I looked at, the verbatim language is in the ASCE 22, so there's no longer a need for an amendment.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing. So thank you. Yeah, Julie's going to go first, and then Roger.
Yeah. So the reason why Scott wrote this is because I think we read the TAG report that when you reviewed the existing amendment, the recommendation of the TAG was to keep this. So that's why we are submitting this
I don't remember that.
proposal
Okay.
to delete.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't remember that. Roger, you want to
Yeah,
tell us what we're doing here?
Well, I'm trying, I was trying to look back to see if I could find notes, and so doing it from memory is not wise when you're as old as I am, but when we went through it previously, I had known, I think that Patrick Lindblom is also part of the committee who is working for us, and I knew that this proposal was already coming through, like Scott Douglas, he had already talked to me about when do you submit code change proposals. So I think there was the intent that they were going to present this, whether or not we actually flagged it or not when we did the code review. I don't remember. I'd have to look, but I agree. I mean, it was ASCE 722 language that we inserted earlier, so it was included in the 21 code. Now that language is included in the 24 code, so we don't need this language anymore.
And does anyone disagree that we knew that from the beginning, that when we adopted it in 2021, that this would not be needed to be included in chapter 16 in 2024, right? Because it would be already referenced to ASC 722, right?
That was, yes, when we adopted it in 2021, and that was understood that this is going to be included in the ASC 722. So in the 24 code, it was important to get it in early.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone have a different understanding? Okay. Any other questions then or comments? Okay, with that, we hear a motion to recommend approval by the full council of petition 043.
I'd
No, 04. Yeah, 43. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, Tom.
Yeah. No, I was not being clear. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I'd like to make a motion to recommend this for approval by full council.
Okay, thank you. Josh?
This is a second. This is Tim.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. With that, then 043 is moved for recommendation for full approval. Or approval by the full council. Thank you. Looks like we're on agenda item 16 and 047.
And it's another one, Scott Newman. Julius, are you able to speak on this one as well?
Yes, so similar to the previous proposal. So Scott and I reviewed the existing the tag report for the 2021 code state amendments, and the recommendation from the tag was to keep this section. But again, in ASC, once we adopt 722, this section of the code is not applicable anymore, so we can remove it. We can omit that table 12.6.1. ASC 722 doesn't have this table anymore, and it's not going to be utilized when we adopt the next ASC 7 standard.
Okay. Thank you. Roger?
Yeah, I'll speak to it as well. I mean, it was similar to the last item. And actually, if you page down to the explanation, the second paragraph of the explanation, where is it? Oh, yeah, the last sentence, essentially more rigorous analysis methods were found to be not as consistent and not any more accurate than more simple analytical tools. So restrictions on the use of more simple analytical tools were lifted. That's what we're doing is we're allowing the more simple analysis tools. So that's the net effect. And I strongly support approving this amendment.
Hey, go ahead, Josh.
Just wanted to echo literally everything Roger just said, took the words out of my mouth, but I think it makes a ton of sense. ASCE has provided a very clear reason statement that's referenced in here. It's good code cleanup. If we were going to keep this, we would have to do a lot of framework amendment to adjust to the new ASCE seismic chapters, and it doesn't seem to make sense with the latest information.
Okay. Thank you. Then are you willing to make the motion?
Yeah, what the heck? I'll unless there's anyone else, I'll make a motion to recommend this for approval from full council.
Thank you, Josh.
This is Tim. I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Any other discussion on 047? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to recommend for approval by the full council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. With that, 047 is moved for recommendation for approval. Thank you, Julius. Agenda item 17 is petition 063.
This was one that I had put forward on behalf of the tag.
Go
But
ahead.
Roger, I see your
Roger.
hand already up. I was going to say, are we ready to talk about this? Oh, I think you may be on mute. Seems to still be muted.
Roger, we can't hear you.
Oops. On the agenda, this is called ground snow loads, but if you page down, this is actually about the UPC. So it was misnamed in the agenda item, right? No. All right.
Interesting. When I click the link, it pops up. At one point, there was a misnamed file here, and I think it's been corrected. I saw what you saw, though, Roger.
Okay.
But overall, given some of the ongoing conversations with SEAW, do you think we should be diving into this full bore now, or should we be waiting for some of the upcoming information maybe from the NSCEA
I think
presentation?
Yeah, I think that we should postpone this one. Josh and a number of people from SEAW are working with the people that developed the ASCE 7 methodology for calculating snow loads. And I think that we suggested to them that we would be up for either the 7th or the 14th meeting, November 7th or November 14th, I forget. So that group is meant to get together, have a better understanding of the, where the new methodology came in ASCE 7 and what the impacts would be on Western Washington in particular. So I would suggest that we postpone this to either this November 7th or November 14th meeting.
If it's productive, I'm happy to give my quick little spiel so the group's a little more involved, but I don't think it would be wise to take action just yet.
Yeah, I think as proponents feel free, and I also think I'm still having trouble clicking through anyway, so delaying it or tabling it might be appropriate. But Josh, if you do want to speak to it, or Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead,
Have a comment.
I was just going to throw that it seems like there's a numbering issue also. This pulled up from online as number 126, not number 63.
Yeah, we're having trouble clicking through, so I think maybe we could get that corrected for next time. And
if you can open the agenda from the meeting invite, the link will take you there so you can have it on your screen. I'm sure there's other things that may need corrected, but you can definitely get there through the agenda. That's how I clicked it, but the website may be different.
So the agenda that was sent out, I'm looking at it, the link is labeled like we want it, but the link is not inserted like we wanted. So it is taking you to the incorrect petition, number 126. And so that's our bad. So
not on my computer.
Oh, well, I'm looking at the one that we should have saved and uploaded, and when I mouse over the hyperlink, it shows that it takes you to 126, and when I click it, it takes you to 126. So it is messed up, but it may not be messed up everywhere. So it is probably most appropriate, since you guys also want to talk about it a little bit later as well, to maybe table this for now.
Okay, Micah, do you have a quick comment or just reinforcing?
Tabling. I can't seem to find it on either of the facing.
I can't either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Josh, do you just want to give a minute on it though to set us up, and then maybe can you make a motion to table?
Yeah, certainly. So just a little bit of background. ASCE is putting forth new national snow load maps, which is based on more recent techniques, more recent mapping, and I think it's overall a very good thing. And when we were first looking at this, I was excited about an online map and wanting to encourage people to recommend adoption or recommend getting rid of anything reference to the Washington state maps in favor of something that seemed to be a little bit better. When I went through those maps and was comparing some values, and in this proposal, when everyone is able to have it in front of them, you can see at the end, and maybe Destin, if you could scroll to the Excel table at the end. Yeah, it should be final page there.
Oh, wait, I have a, here it is. I have it on a different
Oh,
document.
good. I made it confusing for you. So we went through and took initially 30 random sites kind of scattered around the state, and some other folks had helped add a little more data to this. I forget our total number now. But what we saw is an extreme divergence, both in the conservative and unconservative direction compared to the Washington State snow maps that we've been using. They come from 1995 white paper from SEAW, and I believe the research is out of the 80s. However, while we have new maps with newer technology that we would normally think, hey, that's great, we've got more granular data, what we've noticed is the mapping from ASCE is not sensitive to our quick changes in elevation. So for example, where you have maybe a tall but relatively narrow ridge, which is something we have in Washington State a lot, you can see the snow load not change at all with 1,000-foot elevation. Or conversely, where you have a valley that previously had significantly lower snow load because it was 1,000 feet down, we're not seeing changes there. Where we're most concerned is we are seeing some places having their snow load reduced by more than half. And it seems to be as a result of this low sensitivity to topography changes. So we've had some engagement from SEAW and folks from ASCE who are developing the map, as Roger was saying. And there is more information to come on this from some presentations that are coming out from those folks who prepared the map. I also have some materials prepared that I haven't had the opportunity to distribute yet because I need to go through them a little bit more that better illustrates the exact issues with elevation changes. Overall, I guess my conclusion after spending quite a bit of time digging through this is while the studies done by ASC is great, it doesn't work well for our rapidly changing topography, and something else would need to change. Our current SEAW maps were always based on a coefficient based on contour lines that we multiply by an elevation. And, you know, while I understand elevation is not the only factor in determining the snow magnitude or how many inches of snow we get or precipitation, whatever word we want to use, it's certainly a very strong indicator. I mean, I think we all understand that there's a snow line in the mountains and it's pretty damn near horizontal. So basically what we're seeing is some areas with 400% increases, some area with less than half, and a wide standard deviation. If you scroll down a little bit, Dustin, somebody had put out some standard deviations on there. Yeah, so a standard deviation of 63%. That's pretty extreme considering we've had good history in Washington State from my experience of performance in buildings under snow load. Personally, I'm not aware of any collapses due to the snow load design value that was published being inadequate for our area. So while I definitely appreciate ASCE coming up with some better values, more rigorous study, I think it was a wonderful effort for the country at large, but we have unique conditions in our state.
Okay. Good explanation. Thank you, Josh. With that, though, can we hear a motion to table it?
I saw John's hand go up. Should we?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't have to. Go ahead, John.
Sorry, I don't know if we want to discuss it now. I did have a couple of questions, but if we're just going to table it for
No,
later, I can do that later.
No, I would love to hear any comments or questions some of you might have, as long as we don't take up too much time, just so we can bring that information with us in any of these continued conversations with ASCE and SEAW. So if there's things to contribute, please do, because we want as much information as we can to make an informed decision.
Yeah. Okay. So having worked in the lowlands, we didn't have to worry about the contour so much. We just use a 25 PSF roof load forever. So my question is the map that we're talking about readily available?
Yes.
Okay. That's just the first question, and I think presumably we'd have to reference it and things like that, which I think the proposal did, but I couldn't get to the proposal. Second thing, I presume these numbers are comparing apples to apples, the strength loads to strength loads as opposed. Okay, good.
Or-
Yeah, just
or
wanted to confirm that.
And a couple clarifications, and sorry to interrupt if you have more, please do, but I want to make sure I don't lose track. To clarify, we converted the strength level from the new ASCE to ASD to compare them. That is an apples to apples comparison, but it is a little different than what you had just said. I could certainly flip it around the other way, but the values would remain the same mathematically.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
And then when you asked about the map being available, I think I misunderstood. I thought you were asking about the new ASCE map, which I was going to say is embedded into the hazard tool. I believe you were asking about the SEAW maps.
Yeah, we have to adopt a map that people can get to and use, right?
And you have a good point, because I believe that map presently is only available for purchase, but it is readily available. I don't know where legality comes in with free access. Certainly the ASCE is not free. The ACI is not free, but I know some things do have free access, and I don't know the legalities behind it. The SEAW absolutely has these maps available. You can purchase them. I would expect any engineering office in the state of Washington, Better Dam, will have them on hand, because you should be as a responsible engineer, but I know that's not always the case, especially people who operate mostly in low-lying areas. I do a lot of work in Eastern Washington and spend a lot of time dealing with much more complicated snow load considerations and rapid changes, and kind of fighting with many jurisdictions about the appropriate use of the equations in the ASCE. But to better clarify, the SEAW map is available for purchase. I think it's $10 or $20, but legality wise, I'd be interested to hear from other folks if that is a problem for adoption. And my very last thing I wanted to throw out that I forgot in my explanation, there is a little bit of a sticky factor that John talked about, where we do have what's called a strength level for those who aren't in engineering background and structural. The strength level design is essentially just one category, and you can reduce it to an allowable stress design, and certain loads come in as strength level LRFD design, some come in at ASD basic level, and the codes have adjusted them over the years. So wind recently went to LRFD. Seismic has been LRFD for some time now, or the strength level. They're moving snow load in that direction, which is fine, and it does everything for us. It keeps everything equal. It's more appropriate for the reliability targeted analysis that they did. The downside is our amendment is going to have to bridge the gap between the ASD maps of SEAW and the new strength design maps from ASCE. So we have to include some language about conversion factors that's in the proposal. I still think it's appropriate, because I don't think these maps are going to be safe for us to use in Washington. And I am using strong language when I say that, but I wholeheartedly believe it's not safe for us to use the ASCE 7 maps as they currently are. But we do have some careful work we need to do to make sure everyone's understanding the proper application of these numbers.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Julius.
Hey, Josh. Yeah, well, I hope you guys could have a good meeting with ASE folks to explain the basis of the change. But my understanding is, for ASE 722, the main reason why there's a significant change on the mapping is it's based on risk-based approach, meaning the risk category. For example, you have a project risk category 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those have separate maps now. They have 4 maps. I don't know with your proposal how you're addressing.
I was comparing to risk category 2.
And what if we have risk category 3 or risk category 4? What kind of snow load are we gonna use? So that's one question. And then the other is the strength conversion that you have provided. I believe it's unconservative, because I think you're using like an allowable over 0.7 factor. If you read the commentary on ASCE 7, it's actually 1.6 might be unconservative when you're targeting a reliability. They have a reliability target to meet, like for risk category 2, 10% probability of collapse, and that's how they scale the snow loads for 722. So those kind of items, I don't know the intricacy of ASCE 7 snow load to meet these adjustments, but I don't think it's just that straight conversion that you have. So I encourage you to discuss those items with the snow load committee.
I will, but I will just clarify that when you use ASD load combinations, you multiply by 0.7 to turn snow load into ASD. So that would seem to hold
Yeah,
true.
but
The
that the benchmark for that is the new maps, right? Like that 0.7, for example, in 722, like you look at Bellevue, the snow load is 50 PSF.
True.
Strength times 0.7, that's going to be your allowable. What you're doing is the opposite from say 20 PSF over 0.7. You're gonna get you're not gonna reach the target the design load strength level that is consistent with the 10% probability of collapse that
I will,
ASCE is. Yeah.
I will certainly bring that up with them, but I would kind of encourage you to consider that this is exactly how it's been handled with wind and seismic for some time, with the exact same set of considerations.
Okay. That's just my thought. Thank you.
Okay, and we will definitely look at that, but certainly if we want to discuss it, and I think it's an important discussion, isn't that how it's handled with wind and seismic presently?
Yes, so I think the snow load I think is the last item. Like previous cycle, they updated wind load, right? Like we used to have allowable wind load in maybe ASC 705, 710. We moved to strength based. Same thing with seismic. So I think the snow load is the last, and again the intent of ASCE, for example, risk category 2 is 10% probability of collapse. That's the main change. I don't know how you're
Sure.
addressing it with your proposal. Yeah.
Well, we can definitely dig into that more. I guess my question then is, are you comfortable based on that information with some of the snow loads cutting more than in half? Even because the map is not picking up on elevation changes. I'm unfamiliar with your background, sir, but if you're an engineer, is that something you'd be comfortable with?
I'm not sure.
And that's where my issue. I don't disagree with their methodology whatsoever. I think it's a great methodology. The problem comes from the map is not reporting based on the topography of the land. It's not reporting accurate snow loads as measured. It is a broad brush map that's being applied to large areas. And in some of these areas where we have rapid changes, I'm fearful that there could literally be double loads from what's anticipated, which gets us in the territory of collapse. And until somebody can really convince that, I'm going to keep banging this drum.
Thank you for that. We have a couple minutes left. Roger, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I wanted to completely agree with Josh. I've listened to some of the presentations by the ASCE 7 folks. I think that the direction they're heading, both going to strength design and Julius is correct. It's also a connected to risk categories. Those are great moves forward, I think, to push snow design. But my real concern is, as a structural engineer, I see these variations in load, and I'm not sure. I'm looking at a line there, one line there that's 52%, and I don't have any confidence as a structural engineer that wherever that city is located, ANA, and I can't see because somebody's mouse is over the top of it, but the load is 52% of what it was, and I just don't think we don't not have in my mind, we don't have the comfort level that 52% is accurate, particularly when we have something that we have identified an issue with their methodology, which is it's not correctly addressing the elevation changes. So my initial thought is we are going to have to, for this next code cycle, stick with the maps that we have, modify them probably for certainly from ASD to LRFD, also probably modifying them for importance factor for risk categories. but stick with the maps we have. And if in the next code, we can get the methodology from ASCE 7 figured out where it includes the elevation gains appropriately, then we would incorporate it. But I have very serious doubts at this point, having to listen to 2 different meetings, that I'm going to be able to get comfortable with the new methodology for, certainly for Western Washington. So.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Go ahead, John. We're at 3 o'clock, so but we're not going to take action today. So if we want to talk for just a couple of minutes here, people need to drop off quorum, that's okay. But let's finish up. John, go ahead, please.
Okay, sorry. So the question is a little bit, do we need to toss everything, or can we keep parts where we have the most concern? Mountainous areas sounds like, you know, where you got more elevation changes really sound like the big bugaboo here. Do you have to throw it out for the Seattle, you know, for the Puget Sound lowlands? You know, do you have to for most of Eastern Washington, you know, where it's relatively flatter? Is that something that to consider? I don't think I need an answer now. Just, you know, throw that in the pile there.
I want to throw just a couple quick things before we go, tag onto what you're saying, John. I have not looked at Seattle specifically, but so you know, a lot of the low-lying areas, at least near me in Olympia, are going to 40 PSF. And you reduce that down a little bit, of course, because of strength and all of that, but mostly the low-lying lands go up, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but just so you're aware of that. Another thing I throw out for everyone to consider and rattle around on the back of their head while we're getting back to this particular proposal is maybe a better solution, if we can't come to good consensus on methodology, is we move forward with the ASCE maps, but Washington State minimum is based on the previous maps. You know, we may have potential for highly conservative, but it would limit the life safety risk by ensuring we're at least meeting our previous minimum standards and not significantly dropping. Maybe that's an easier way to handle this. I don't know if that makes it easier for people, but that way we can ensure that we're not underestimating anything with the old maps, because they are old, they are out of date, and they did do some good work on these new maps. But conversely, we're not using new maps that maybe it's just, I mean, purely software not reporting correctly, potentially. I mean, we don't even know that. It might literally be a software issue. I think it's more the how they approach the you know, over a whole country. I certainly sympathize with that challenge, but perhaps we could consider making the ASCE, or I'm sorry, the SEAW maps that we've been using a minimum. And with that, I'll stop taking all of our time here.
No, this is good. So, okay, with that though, we're over our time. I'm Josh and Roger. Are we just going to pick this up at the next meeting? So I'm not sure we really need to take action here and table.
My hope, Todd, is for our group, Josh and some of the SEAW people to meet with the ASCE people and have a discussion so that we can better understand it. And then I believe that the proposal right now that was submitted, Josh, isn't it pretty much to just take the current loads and adopt them? We can modify that. I think that there needs to be clear direction from that group. What's the best way moving forward? And then I think that the IBC tag is going to have to try to understand our reasoning for going forward, and you know, hopefully get behind that. So I think that we need to pick, and I can look at the schedule. I actually think November 14th would be better to give that group enough time for us to circle the wagons and have a clear direction that we agree on. Does that sound correct to you, Josh?
It does, and you're right, the existing proposal is just use old maps with conversion factor, but it does sound like we want to chase down that conversion factor a little more based on what Julius was bringing up. So that factor may change, but that is what's currently proposed.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a desire to maybe table it and put it more towards the end of the line. Okay, circle back to it. Tim?
I'd make a motion to table this so that we can get it past November 14th when the 2 groups meet and have more information for us.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Josh. And I said that people could leave. And so if we still have quorum, then I think we can take a quick vote on this. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so with that, thank you. That 063 is tabled. And since we're over time, we will pick this up again presumably next week. Dustin, is the next TAG meeting?
Yeah, we'll pick up with what is it, 067
067.
next week on the 7th. And we'll table this one till the 14th and
Or beyond, yeah.
be good. And as far as correlation group, since we didn't get to that and people are dropping off, I'll send out an email poll to everybody asking for volunteers and we'll run it that way. If I get a bunch, we'll send it out to those and ask for volunteers to step back down, I guess. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, good. All right, thank you, everyone. Good work today.
Thank
We're
you.
adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.